In a world where gods and goddesses reign above monarchs, a young man ventures to discover the truth behind his identity. He pursues Gaia's oracle to unveil his origins. Upon learning about his bloodline, his journey involving gods, monarchs, and ambitious individuals begin. A young mercenary wakes up in a massive cave with his feet locked in medieval wooden stocks. He looks around and discovers several decapitated feet. Then he sees the one-eyed giant, Cyclops, sharpening a boomerang-shaped blade, so he frantically unlocks the stocks. When he fails, he convinces Cyclops that he's here to help him as commanded by Gaia, the mother goddess. The giant ignores him, so he screams its name, and the Cyclops screams back, opening his mouth which encloses his eye. He throws his sling to the blade and pulls it off the giant's hands. He tosses the blade and Cyclops tries to catch it, slicing 2 of his fingers. The giant shrieks in pain as the mercenary grabs the blade and breaks free. He tricks the giant so that he can explore the cave to find something. Then he hears women's cries and finds a young lady, a middle-aged woman, and an elderly lady. He proclaims he's here to rescue Gaia's oracle, but they all claim to be the one. On the other hand, in Athens, King Aegeus yells at General Dion to change their tactic to a bold attack. Despite the general's explanations of their soldiers' exhaustion and being outnumbered, the king sternly commands him to end the Minoans since Athenians are twice as strong. Once the generals step out, Queen Medea reminds King Aegeus that he's venting his anger on the wrong people. The king urges the queen to fulfill her mission, but she informs him that their son, Lycos, has useless visions. King Aegeus reminds Medea that the lexicon in their son is like a puzzle, and she must decode his vision to sweep victory. Afterward, Medea starts the ritual as Lycos lies on a table and his blood drips into a bowl. The lad repeats incoherent visions and loses consciousness, but the queen slaps him awake. Frustrated, the queen complains about her son's uselessness and then dismisses him. She tries to read whatever she can on her son's blood, but there's nothing, so she throws the bowl angrily. Meanwhile, the mercenary tells the women to hide when the giant returns. He lets the giant chase him until he arrives at the cliff's edge, and Cyclops charges at him. He jumps off and it follows. The mercenary survives since his feet are tied to a stone by the cliff. Soon he escapes the cave with the women. As soon as they're out, the young lady hurriedly leaves, saying she's not the oracle. Understanding that the young lady is the real oracle, he follows her. On the other hand, the battle rages on, and the Athenians are losing. The General Dion and King Aegeus enter the battle, but the monarch gets overwhelmed upon seeing the reality. Arrows rain upon them, but Aegeus is at a loss until an arrow strikes his upper chest. Meanwhile, the mercenary captures the oracle and heads to the temple of Gaia. The women convince him to let her go, saying the priests will end his life upon their return. He asks the oracle why she escaped, and she responds that she's being beaten and defiled, which he doesn't believe. To persuade him, she gives him a vision. She states that he's not a mercenary and his name is cursed. If she says his name, something terrible will happen to her. The man informs her that anyone who says his name will be turned to stone. The oracle asks him to let her go since she's proven herself, but the man refuses. Suddenly, 2 wild men arrive, demanding he leaves the oracle. The young man informs them that he's a marshal sent by the priest of Gaia and that the woman shouldn't be harmed. However, the 2 simultaneously attack. One of the men, Theo, drags the oracle away while the other wild man and the marshal are combating fiercely. The marshal uses his sling to strangle and suffocate the enemy. He pursues Theo, but the footprints are suddenly gone. Meanwhile, the palace is in turmoil due to King Aegeus' injury. Queen Medea attends to him while Lord Pallas, Aegeus' brother, rushes to ask General Dion about the king's status. Medea's medicines arrive, but instead of her assistant, Alexa, Priest Xerxes, the prince's mentor, is the one who brings them in, making Medea unsettled. Back in the forest, the oracle tends to Theo's wounds. The man declares that he will accompany the woman, but she refuses because she doesn't want him to get hurt. The oracle proclaims that her mission is what the gods want her to do alone, and heads to her destination. She stops in her tracks when she sees flashes of vision about an eagle, a woman, and a warrior. Before she recovers, the marshal arrives and captures her again. In the palace, Medea successfully cures the king. On the other hand, Pallas approaches Dion to warn him that his life may also be in danger. Afterward, Dion confides to Medea about Pallas's warnings. The queen reassures him, but Dion becomes anxious, thinking that Pallas knows about his real relationship with Medea. The queen ends the conversation by embracing the general to comfort him. On the other hand, the marshal asks the woman how she escaped the wild man. She explains that the man was weakened, so she ran away. However, the marshal catches her lie. Because of this, she confesses that Theo is her brother and that the other man is his friend. They were on their way to save her, but they met in the forest, so they improvised. The marshal drags her again to resume their journey. In the palace of Athens, Medea discovers that the king is already waiting for the generals. She persuades him to rest and blocks the generals from meeting him. However, she notices a new face, and Dion explains that Captain Oros, who he's training, but the queen knows that he's the general's bodyguard. She proclaims that she's in charge of the palace affairs while the king is recovering and dismisses the men. In the desert, the marshal collapses as Theo strikes him with a poison needle. The oracle removes the poison and wakes him by slapping him hard. The siblings help him to his feet, but he refuses, making him collapse again. Moments later, he finds himself tied and alone in the middle of a desert. That evening, the oracle warns Theo to stop tagging along. As they bicker, the marshal arrives, and soon after, the siblings are dragged back to the temple. In the palace sanctuary, Dion and Oros meet Medea, and the queen explains her findings that the arrow that struck the king isn't from the Minoans. She adds that the real enemy is near the king, like a general. Dion gets angry by this accusation, so Medea clarifies that it's not him, but someone always with him, because Pallas knows that the general is a coward who'll get a bodyguard upon hearing a conspiracy theory. Due to this, Oros charges towards Medea, but it's a mirror he attacks. The real queen steps behind him and stabs him. The following day, King Aegeus calls the generals for a meeting again. Medea stops him and hands him his medicine. Upon chugging it, he falls and Medea assists him to his bed. All the while, Alexa watches secretly. Afterward, the queen attends the generals' meeting and hands them some drinks. Then she explains how an assassination attempt by someone close to the king was prevented. She commences a toast, and after seeing everyone drink, she announces that the accomplice is still here. Pallas becomes nervous, but then Dion collapses and dies from poison. The queen proclaims that now that the traitor is gone and since the king is weak, the army will be led by Lycos. Priest Xerxes offers his loyalty and praises the queen, so the others follow, even Pallas. On the other hand, the marshal, the oracle, and Theo finally arrive at the temple of Gaia. The head priest, Priest Cyrus, commands him to tie the woman to Gaia's mouth. Then, the marshal kneels to ask for a vision. The oracle becomes very surprised to know that he's here for a vision, since he can ask her when they first met. And the man explains that the priest says it's only possible in the temple. The oracle declares that the mouth of Gaia only helps with the vision's accuracy. Priest Cyrus urges the oracle to give the vision, so she steps onto the mouth of Gaia. The marshal asks why he's brought up in hiding, and the truth creeps into the oracle's mind. She explains that the man's father is King Aegeus, and being the firstborn son, he has the Lexicon inside of him. He inquires what it is, so Priest Cyrus explains that it leads to the door of Olympus. Any mortal who can go there will also be a god. The son of Aegeus releases the oracle and declares they're leaving. The priest offers him to stay, basking in luxury, in exchange for sharing his dreams. Otherwise, he'll face imprisonment and beatings. Suddenly, two priests appear and attack them. They manage to push one of them off the cliff, but Theo gets cornered, so the priest warns them to surrender or the lad perishes. The oracle pleads with the prince, so he lets go of his weapon. However, one of the priests slashes Theo's neck, and his sister weeps at his death. Afterward, Priest Cyrus ties the son of Aegeus onto the mouth of Gaia as his blood drips on the brass bowl. Every vision he has, his blood writes it like a canvas. The priest decodes his visions as the sacred ring and insists the young man to tell its location. The prince declares he doesn't know where it is and sees a beast in his vision snarling at him. Priest Cyrus decides to make him bleed more for a clearer vision, but the oracle stops him, saying that she'll take his seed instead of risking the man's life and losing the lexicon forever. The oracle acts seductively towards the prince, so the priests avoid their gaze. Upon seeing that the priests aren't looking, the oracle uses her hair accessory to unbound the prince secretly. However, Priest Cyrus gets alerted and turns at them just when the two tumble to the ground. The oracle and the prince fight the priests, while Priest Cyrus escapes. Finally, the oracle avenges her brother as she slashes the priest's neck. In Athens, Medea commands her son to remove his armor. She explains that his job is to report everything to her and he shouldn't do anything. Lycos argues that he has plenty of ideas to share, but the queen sternly reminds him of his duty to unlock the lexicon. Soon after, the assembly begins, and the generals discuss war strategies. Suddenly, Pallas asks Lycos what to do, and he suggests that they use the regiment from Thebes to trick the enemies as they swap soldiers at night. Priest Xerxes encourages Lycos, and Pallas agrees with his plan despite General Proteus' objections. On the other hand, King Aegeus demands to meet with the generals again, but Queen Medea stops him. She asks about his plans, only to discover that Aegeus wants to open the gates and fight the Minoans blindly. The king of Athens is prepared to sacrifice everyone's life, as he believes it's the honorable way. Upon hearing this, Medea offers a tonic, but he refuses, so she volunteers to put on his armor. However, she purposely locks it tightly to weaken him again. She assists him back on the bed, and he drinks the tonic. Soon after, he falls asleep and the queen leaves. Meanwhile, the unknown prince declares he's returning home to the forest of Troezene. The woman persuades him to go to Athens instead, highlighting how powerful the lexicon is and how he can make anyone a god. The prince asks her if she wants to be a god, and the oracle denies it vehemently. She proclaims that she wants to save Athens and stop the war. The prince sarcastically summarizes the situation, emphasizing the danger that the woman wants him to face. Their argument is interrupted when a man riding a flying machine crashes into the forest near them, and the two run to aid him. In the palace sanctuary, priest Cyrus informs Medea about the king's real firstborn son. As the queen is enraged, the priest volunteers to find the unknown prince, but Medea commands him to partner with one of his most trusted men, Koros. Soon, the group begins to chase after the king's firstborn. Afterward, Medea wakes Aegeus and confronts him fiercely about his firstborn son. The queen angrily slaps the monarch and confirms that Aegeus knows the Lexicon is not with Lycos, because he already gave it to someone else. The king explains that the Lexicon is a curse of a beast, and he has to give it away, especially as he hadn't known Medea back then, which could guide him with its powers. Aegeus pleads to drink as he's extremely parched, so Medea gives him the tonic. The king asks her why he can't stand and how long he has been sleeping, so the queen answers that it hasn't been long and she needs more time and space to move. Aegeus realizes too late that his weakening is Medea's plan as he collapses on the bed. On the other hand, the unknown prince and the oracle try to help the older man Daedalus, but he walks to the cliff's edge. The older man jumps off the cliff, but the prince and the oracle stops him. Soon, the oracle realizes that the man is Daedalus, the genius inventor. The group's bickering stops when Cyrus and Koros appears at the opposite cliff. Daedalus thinks they're Mino's men, so they hurriedly leave. In the palace, Medea visits Lycos to ask about the assembly, but he lies, saying he follows her directions. Simultaneously, the Minoans climb the walls of Athens for an ambush, but the Athenians subdue them easily, following Lycos' strategy. Afterward, Pallas congratulates Lycos for the effective strategy and encourages him to participate in the meetings more. Meanwhile, the oracle prays for Gaia to help convincing the unknown prince to return to Athens, but visions flash to her, seeing that the prince's destiny is to end his father's life. Afterward, she sees the prince drawing the symbol of the Ring of the Magi. Daedalus arrives and the two inquire if he knows where it is. The young man denies knowing anything about the ring. However, due to Daedalus's and the oracle's explanation of how powerful the ring is and how tempting it is to understand what it does, the prince later admits that it's located in the forest of Troezene. The oracle realizes he wants to return home to claim the ring and present it to his father as proof of his identity. Daedalus gets shocked to know that he's the firstborn of Aegeus, and the woman is an oracle. The woman proclaims that they have to stay together since it's their fate to be with each other, and Daedalus convinces the young man to comply, so the three commence their journey. On the other hand, Cora sends a raven to Medea to notify her that they have lost track of the prince. With this, she summons a siren. Simultaneously, Pallas hands over a blade as a gift and persuades Lycos to sit on the king's throne. However, they're interrupted when General Proteus arrives with a young man as a sacrifice for Ares, the god of war. The general removes the robes of the young man and instructs Lycos to stab him straight in the heart, but the prince stares at the man from head to toe and runs away. The men become puzzled by his reaction, and Pallas explains that it seems that the prince realizes that he wants to embrace the young man instead. Pallas follows Lycos and presents him with a young scribe, Caimon. The uncle hints that the man will be loyal to the prince and obey his every command. Pallas then commands Caimon to greet Lycos with a kiss as he leaves them. Meanwhile, the unknown prince runs away from his companions, but he gets hypnotized by Medea's siren. The young man follows the siren until Daedalus tackles him, and the oracle punches him unconscious to break the enchantment since if he continues, he'll be sent to Hades, the god of the underworld. Because of the failure, Medea approaches Pallas to ask for men to secretly pursue the king's firstborn, but he firmly says that the soldiers are under Lycos' command, so the queen goes to her son. She sees Lycos enthusiastically meeting with the generals, and despite a request to speak with them, she's ignored. On the other hand, Aegeus' firstborn, with his companions, arrives at a cliff where segregated platforms of land are the only way to cross. Below it is a river of magma, so he warns them to let him go alone. The two persist in coming, so they all jump onto the platforms, but the prince miscalculates his jump and hangs on for dear life. The oracle and Daedalus rush to him for help. When the young man manages to climb, he notices that time has stopped and the surroundings have turned black. The beast he has seen before appears, angry that the young man is trying to look for him. The beast strangles the prince and threatens him. Then, everything returns to normal. In the palace, Medea sees a white dove as a sign that Chorus has tracked the king's firstborn. Then she goes to Lycos' room. She finds her son cheerful in the company of Caimos and immediately criticizes Lycos' war strategies. The prince informs his mother that things are getting better. However, Medea sternly warns him that the court will think they're better without the king, and once they do, the monarchy will have a problem. Afterward, Lycos realizes that he finally earns Medea's respect for the first time. On the other hand, the unknown prince, the oracle, and Daedalus arrive hundreds of feet above the ground at the edge of a massive hand statue.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.